David.
Hey, how are you, Orlando?
Man, a pleasure to have you here again. As I mentioned before, when I had you in the Miami Real Estate Show for the first time, my brother, who is extremely analytical and very successful, says, man, if there's one agent that I like to follow every single week, that's David. Man, congratulations on everything you're doing right now.
Thank you, brother. Very kind words, especially coming from you. Really appreciate it. Really do.
Thank you, man. And just for those of you who don't know the productivity of David right here, just to give you an idea, we're in March 2021, and I have in my notes right here, $55 million in sales. Wait a minute, in January. And I have also right here, $68 million in sales in February. And what's the goal for March, David?
About 50, but you know, it's work in progress every day. But yes, yeah, we live in strange times. It's crazy right now.
It is crazy, right? So you're having this massive, but every year, you know, your productivity is extremely high. I mean, and I'm not talking the agents in Miami. You are based in Miami, but you are recognized nationwide for all the work you do, all the content, the high quality analytical content by area, the platform you use, which is incredible. But what's the number one challenge right now? You know, so for some agents, does it have a challenge right now doing over $50 million per month? But what's the number one challenge you see right now in this market, 2021, March?
I think there's two things. I mean, right now, time management is very challenging because, you know, you're getting calls every few seconds. I just got a call from San Francisco and New York in the last 5 minutes while I'm on this chat. I'm like auto respond. Time management, handling and structuring your day to be able to get through every day, because when you're doing it at great speed and you're getting so many calls, you know, our February was 32 transactions in 1 month. So we're doing more than one a day.
Okay.
Which it kind of blows my mind, and I'm lucky because I've got a really amazing team who absolutely work their butt off to get these deals done, and they're very, very good. But literally, you do one deal a day and you're on to the next one. So you've got to have this structure. So that's part of it. And I guess the second thing is, which is the challenge as we go through the rest of the year, is we are down to about, in many markets, down to about 40% of the inventory that we had this time last year. And our relocations are up like 500, feels like 500% up in relocations. So it's almost like 10 times more hard to get a deal. And I would say that every morning it feels like I wake up, I'm one of 100 lions running through the savannah, chasing one zebra.
So that's not every other agent. So that's also David's situation, right? It's just off the market properties.
Off market, I mean, look, on market's very dry. A lot of stuff is you know, it's getting listed and going into pending contract the same day because it was never really listed. There's a lot of off market product that's trading hands. You know, people look at the MLS and they see this, but the reality is that there is a ton, and more than ever before, off market big deals happening every single day. And I'm fortunate that when I speak to all the other big agents in the market, they're telling me all the same thing. They're calling me, I'm calling them, and we're like, what have you got? Or what have you got? What have you got? So yeah, it's the secret right now is product, and or the lack of it. That's the big challenge.
So let me ask you a question, because I get a lot of agents in our coaching program asking, do you know anybody that has yesterday I had one specific one, a $10 million property in the Gables. So I said, you need to be more specific to look for it. But again, they were having, you know, a hard time finding a property for a client that has $10 million to invest or to purchase a property. So how do you work with this off-market properties? How do you find them? And I know you build relationships, you talk to other agents, but how do you make sure you have a high probability of finding that property where there is not that many in the market right now?
Yeah, well, it's two things. I mean, look, the first way is obviously you've got to be farming. You've got to be regularly farming the system. And that's something that, you know, we spoke about before. I said, this is a chess game, not a game of checkers. You have to be 3 moves ahead. And so you have to invest the time, you know, sometimes years in advance to build a relationship with that seller so that, you know, when the time comes, they're open to sell. And that means not necessarily saying, will you list or will you, you know, let me put a sign up, but, you know, when the time comes, will you be open to the conversation of selling? And so they don't even have to have it listed. You know, we do have a lot of properties that we take pictures of and it's not on the market. So we're waiting for that right buyer to come through. So that's investing the time early on in the process to get that relationship going and nurture it and build it, Because if you call some guy at, the last minute and say, hey, I know you've got a $10 million house, will you sell it? There's a likeliness that if you haven't engaged with them earlier and they haven't even had time to digest that. And no guy who gets told on a Monday, will you sell your house, is going to suddenly sell his $10 million house on a Tuesday. It's very likely that, these guys often have such a level of affluence that they can buy anything that they like. You can't motivate them with an extra, $500,000 or $1 million above market. It doesn't work like that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is also making sure that you're talking to the other agents and you invest time calling the big agents who do sell those big properties to say, hey, if you have anything that could work for this client, can you share it? And make sure that you're respectful in the process and that you understand where they are in it. Because again, big agents, we don't want our off-market stuff just floating out there in space. We don't want to tell everybody because that can backfire as well.
Right.
It comes around and then you get circumnavigated. So you need to really make sure that you've got a good level of trust with that agent and that they know that you're sincere and that you're going to be honorable about the process.
Now, I want to touch on the point, going back to the off-market properties, building those relationships and the concept of you're playing chess, not checkers, right? Can you go deeper into that? Because it's such an important principle in real estate, right? Making sure that you have those relationships that you're building, not only you're increasing your database, but as important, strengthening the relationship with that database. And I'm not talking only about buyers and sellers, but also with real estate agents, as you mentioned. So explain to me exactly how you build those relationships, or give us an idea of what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
So sowing the seeds in any business, whether it's real estate or otherwise, I think is always an important facet of your operation. It doesn't matter what you're in, it's really, really key. So I think what it means is that when you have quiet moments, it's important to look and communicate and share. Sharing, networking and sharing is part of any good businessman's operation. Any successful person will tell you it's all about sharing. This is why we do these calls. It's why we go in these chat rooms. It's why we go on Clubhouse. It's why we get onto anything where we're trying to broaden our spectrum. Going in and when you have quiet moments, calling the other agents and saying, hey, do you have anything off market? You aware of anything? Telling them about stuff that you have. And you should always be investing in giving back to them, building that relationship. It can't be take. And just also when people call you and they need things, spend some time to make sure that you reply, because there's nothing worse than an agent who, will give you a very quick answer, won't give you the time of day, and then they call you back 6 months later and go, oh, I really want to do a deal with you here, or I really want, do you have anything? You're like, you wouldn't give me the time of day 6 months ago. I'm not going to start just opening up to you now. Just build those relationships, make sure that when you go to properties and you show clients other properties, talk to the agents involved. Don't just be there, just kind of like on your phone or showing the property or ignoring. Try to communicate with the other agent. Try to build a rapport. Try to be respectful about time as well.
What I found that, and I've seen this in open houses when I go and visit one of our clients in coaching, right? I see usually the newer agents are very, very jealous and protective of their client, right? They don't want the listing agent and at the open house talking to them or whatever.
Yeah,
and they're like very, very private. They don't want to share with the listing agent.
Yeah.
But when I see the top agents, and I'm not talking about price point, I'm talking about top agents closing a lot of properties, they're always open and willing to share, to learn from somebody else, to converse, right? To have a talk with other fellow associates, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you know your business and you know your value, I always say you don't own clients in perpetuity. It's not slavery. That's dead. You have to know that your clients trust you and they stay with you and they'll work with you. You can't be to the point of scared that they're going to, because otherwise they will talk to other people anyway. I mean, this is the nature. We live in a communicative world and it's a social world. So you can't lock them away in a cupboard until you need them. It just doesn't work like that.
Right.
So be open, share with them. I mean, I think that having open dialogue in any business is key, but I think that comes with knowing your worth. The big agents, that you have value and you can do things other people can't do. as a new agent, don't try to be too closeted. It's power in numbers. You're much better off with people than without them.
Now, let me ask you another question. How do you find all those top clients around the nation? What do? You develop relationships with one and then open up. You send emails. Of course, you have a great content in your different marketing channels. What do you do to find those such valuable clients, whether they are buyers or sellers?
You know, it's like there was a film years ago called Field of Dreams that's showing my age now with Kevin Costner, and the line of the film is, "If you build it, they will come." Mm-hmm. It's a classic quote. What I did was I invested over a decade building content into a system, which is my website. So I wrote articles, I did videos, I do reports. And so what obviously over time is I built this and I invested in it because I know Google rank you according to unique content. So I always say, look, you can have the same performance as my website, but it'll probably take you 10 years to do it because you don't have as much content as me. So for me, a lot of my traffic comes organically. Obviously, I get referrals, which is a side of my business, but the power of the internet is such that it's a viral system. So it grows virally. The more you put out there and the more information you put that's useful, you layer it to the point that, you know, right now I have like 500 videos. You can go onto YouTube and find like 500 videos I've done. And a client came in from San Francisco on Monday. And the husband, it was really an interesting phenomenon because, you know, whether you're watching Netflix or YouTube or just normal HBO, your brain or your mind for a lot of people doesn't really differentiate between the three anymore because they've all become sophisticated mediums of communication.
Right.
So after watching like 20 of my videos, he came in and he was like, "This is weird. This is like meeting somebody who's on TV." And I said, "Well, your brain's been tricked, but I'm just a guy who sells houses. So it's not that big a deal." But for him, what I felt was there was this immediate trust and this connection because a lot of the narrative and the things I always explain, I've said early on in my video, so I don't have to repeat myself. That groundwork's already been laid. The baseline of who I am, what I do is already there. So we could cut straight to the meat and potatoes of it, which is selling the houses. So a lot of people find me through that search. That way is obviously, a big system. And right now, because of, COVID, our website, we get 25,000 visitors a month right now.
That's great, man. That's great. Huge. That's unreal. And organic.
Organic, yeah. And we probably have, I want to say 12 to 15 new registrations a day. Those are not just, these are like, this is my name, this is my email, this is my telephone number, and this is what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. And then we'll get 4 or 5 direct calls, which is pretty much like, my name is, Joe Smith, and I've got my wife and 2 kids, and we're moving from San Francisco to Miami, and we're buying a house, and we're coming in on this date. So it's very specific. Yep. Which, that's how I've developed, which is now why, when we were talking, I'm trying to draw in more agents into my system.
Right. And before we go into the agents, I want to, specify, which is what we teach in coaching, right? Which is, it's who makes more money. And again, becoming that person, right? That you've become in 10 years. It didn't happen overnight, right? Right. And people say, well, but how is this guy doing 55 million in a month, $68 million in a month? Well, as you said, it took you some time. So what do you do? Who makes more money, the general doctor or the specialist? The specialist, right? But who makes more money, that specialist
or the hospital?
Or Dr. Ross. Dr. Ross.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Ross, what you did with this client from San Francisco is you're the celebrity. To him, you might not be a nationwide TV celebrity, but to this guy, you are known, right? So it's much easier. So what we need to learn in the concept of principle by giving value, because it's content that you provide, is that it's much easier for people to do business with you when they find you instead of when you find them. That was not a cold call. Right? That is a guy reaching out to you because you are perceived. You are, but you are also perceived because of your marketing as the expert. Yeah. Got it? So nobody wants to be sold, but everybody loves to buy. And what you've created through that content and that website, which is incredible, and we're going to give you the name of the website because it's very unique, very sophisticated, with a lot of very specific content per area and the information. You've created an environment where they're not being sold, but where they want to buy. They want to talk to David. So congratulations on that, man. It's just, you have created the perfect environment to create the perfect numbers in a monthly basis.
Yeah, I always say, look, you know, there are hundreds of agents running around, and I have built all my, I don't call them agents, in-house agents, I call them territory managers.
Okay, explain that to me.
They only do certain territories, because I always say, if you're going to be an expert, be an expert. That means you're the smartest person in the room. That means you know more than everyone else, or you have access to information that not everyone has access to. Don't try to be everything. When you create a video or whatever you do content-wise, make it specific to a market. Have a clear objective just at that particular video, that blog, whatever it might be. And that's why now we're trying to grow into new areas, and we just want agents who are masters in that area. We don't want them running around, because if you do that, you'll get perceived as, jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. Again, who makes more money, the general doctor or the specialist, right? And the specialist says, I can only perform surgery on the right foot. That's the only thing that I know. I have selective ignorance. If you want to use me because you have that need, great. If not, you go to somebody else. At the end of the day, it's that transformation, because you provide way more value. Great point. Great point. Now, I want to transition into time management, right? Because, these are great numbers, but I don't think you're working part-time. I don't think so.
Yeah, God, anyone who tells you, and look, and it's a very, very high pressure job.
Right.
And if someone comes in and they say to you, I'm really thinking of doing real estate because I want a part-time job and I don't want to work weekends.
Flexible hours.
You're like, you are definitely in the wrong business. I don't know of a business that makes you work harder. From literally sunrise to sundown. But the reality is that we are not machines. We're not robots. We cannot sustain, 100% output 24/7. So you need to obviously recognize that and recognize your limitations. And, the body works in patterns, it wave cycles. I have a big background in sport, and anyone will tell you, if you're a performance athlete, you don't push the limits every single time that you work out or you're competing. You do it periodically in a stage, but it allows you to build up to a level, to a crescendo, and then you have to back off. So I think what happens is that, there are times when you have to go like, foot to the floor, but at the same time, you've also got to be much, much smarter about it. You've got to be strategic about it. Running just blindly in the direction is not good. And it's important, I think, to step back almost every day, reflect. And I'm very lucky I have an operations director, Chris, who pulls me back and actually makes me stop and reflect every day and says, you know what, let's look at what you're doing right now. Is this the smartest thing that you can do? And should we be changing this schedule a little bit? Because the end result is you're trying to get the client one property to buy. You're not trying to show them 1,000 properties. You need them to buy that one property. And the faster you can show them that one property, the better. As I always said, and someone asked me, like, how much work it is. Actually, somebody sent me this, one of my team sent me this, and it's actually from a show called, weirdly enough, it's called Peaky Blinders, which is actually a British show. And the message in the show comes out with one thing very, very clearly. It says, you're paying me for the minutes. You're paying me for the hours of experience, not the minutes that I'm working.
Exactly.
And that you've got to kind of really be aware, because if you're a specialist surgeon and you're performing knee surgery, right. I've got a friend who does hips.
Right.
He'll do like 10 operations in a day. It's crazy. It's like, and then he'll leave and they'll sew up and he doesn't do everything. Right. He's there for one specific job, which is with a scalpel, get it done, takes him 10 minutes. But the team, the anesthetist and everybody else is coming in and working around him. So when you work, you've got to, it takes a village. And so I always say, have people like yourself, and you've perfected in your specific field, an area to add value to agents. Without them having to run around and do a million things, there's an area that they come to you for. In the same way, with my business, I have my attorney who handles all my contracts. I have my marketing director. I have my operations director. I have my assistant. I have all these people all circling, so that when I'm done, I'm done with that deal. I move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And my other team members are doing the same thing. We have the support structure for them, whether it's their assistant, the operations director, the marketing director. These are, you shouldn't be trying to do everything at once. I think when you start doing that, that's when you get trapped. Right. And I've seen that with great agents who've been running it for a long time, and it's just them and one assistant. And they say, well, I work better like that because I'm not I don't work with a lot of people around me.
So two things about that. So we say in coaching, right, to the agents that they don't have a team or they don't have an administrative support, the administrative support, we say, remember that if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
Yeah, you're a glorified employee.
Exactly. All right. Now, what you've done is that if you're still thinking about how I do it because I don't want to delegate, your goals are too small, right? It's much easier, all right, and productive to find or to ask the who can do it for me instead of how I can try to do it on my own. Yeah. If you're still thinking about how I can do it, it's pretty much impossible. You get a ceiling. It's 100%, all right, return or results of 100% of your effort, right? So you'd rather have, and that's what we tell our team, right? I'd rather have 100% of the intellect, experience, and knowledge of 100 people than 100% of my effort, experience, and knowledge.
Yeah, and two hands. I mean, look, there's a reason why a manual laborer makes, $40,000 a year, but the developer of the project makes billions of dollars.
Exactly.
Because he's got a lot of people with hands working. And I think that in the same way, I would say to anyone who's an agent who doesn't have an assistant, you might as well be washing your own car before you take a client out because you're that inefficient with your time.
Exactly.
An assistant is something that you absolutely need to have. And if you feel that you can't afford one of the options is join a big team like mine, join a team because we have that structure. And for the amount that we might take, as long as you're getting the leads and you're getting the business, which we generate, one of my team joined my team in January, George. And within the first month, I gave him 12 leads in the first month. And he's literally every day, he's getting something from me, a lead from me, because I cannot be all things to all people. If I'm getting 4 or 5 inquiries a day, which we are, brand new clients a day, I simply can't handle 4 or 5 new clients a day. San Antonio, Texas is another one. I mean, it's literally like, it's crazy.
And I know you have to go. We got to go. I want to wrap it up. But, I know you're always looking for talent.
Yes, God, I am. Yeah, and it's I need good agents.
If they want to find you, if an agent wants to find you and they want to join your team, what's the best way to find you?
The best way is email me to start with. So if you email me, actually email Chris Busley, my operations director, chris@siddonsgroup.com. And that's,
and we're going to put it in the footer anyways, perfect. But if you can repeat it.
Chris, CRIS@siddonsgroup.com or David@siddonsgroup.com if you want to CC me as well. But the truth is, we are looking for people right now. We've never been busier, and we need people who they've got to have some experience, right? Because we hit the ground running. I mean, like George, if you join my team, I'm going to be throwing leads at you every single day. You better be able to handle it. And the other thing is, once you've got in joining the team, the one thing that we have is we have some technologies that are very unique. Obviously, I'm one of the proprietary owners of Condo Geeks, which is smartgeek.io. It's a software that's 15 years aggregated data of the condo market that's been scraped and perfected, so we understand the economic cycle. It's incredibly powerful when you go in and you're part of a team, because already, dare I say, you're standing on the shoulders of giants. We are Douglas Elliman's number 9 team in the country, in the whole country. So we've got a base. And it's not, I don't say it's just me, it takes a village to get there, but it allows you to grow. And if you look at these big teams, one of the big teams at Elliman is Frederick Eklund, the Eklund Gomez Group. They've done $15 billion to date. That's mind blowing. I mean, again, when you're doing $1 billion a year, you need that, but that engine is creating a ton of traffic. And you don't have to, you don't need the assistant, you don't need the operations director, the marketing director, and all these things. We have all that. And for what we take, the small percentages that we take, you're able to generate a lot of your own business yourself and keep it, and a ton more of fresh business, and you're able to do it at that volume. So or I say it, email us if you're looking. We'd love to chat with you.
Man, I want to close it with that. At the end of the day, remember, I'd rather have, and that's not a phrase from me, it's a John Paul Getty said it, I'd rather have 1% effort of 100 people than 100% effort of my own, right? And that comes financially, it comes in effort, intellectually. And that's why you have a team, I have a team, we all have teams that allow us to concentrate on what we call that unique ability, right? And to expand and have a much, much bigger vision.
Scale your business, people. If you want to scale your business, look at any business. I mean, look, there's a reason Jeff Bezos is the richest man on the planet, because he's got a system to scale his business.
Exactly.
And you don't want to scale yours. You don't want to be trapped in there at that level where it's just you trying to do all the business. If you want to go to that next level, you've got to find a way to scale it.
There you go, 100%. Scale the business, find the who instead of the how. David, it's a pleasure for me to have you again in the Miami Real Estate Show. It's always a pleasure talking to you, man. And congratulations on everything that's happening with you and your business. Big hugs to you, man.
Thank you. You too. Speak soon.